if you could give a letter grade to the mayor for his handling of gun violence in the city, what grade would you give him?
Oh, I give him a D.
D or
D.
B?
D,
Okay.
as in dog.
Why is that?
Well, there's been some efforts made to address gun violence, including funding community intervention specialists, but there's not been there's not been a crisis response to what is a crisis out there. Everything's been very slow. So, for instance, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars sitting within the Office of Violence Prevention, waiting to go out in the community to make sure that people are in the streets. So I'm working with faith-based leaders, and they're saying, we know who is in our community, we know what the needs are, we know how to address some of these needs, but they're not seeing the funding streams, and that was held up for many months. Likewise, the Gun Violence Reduction Task Force. Hopefully the mayor understood that could be fixed rather than eliminated, and I think that was caving into public pressure rather than improving an organization. So now we have the focused intervention team. In the meantime, 18 months have passed, and who knows how many lives were lost because we didn't have people out there in the community making sure that gun violence did not escalate. And then lastly, I think we need to form partnerships with state police, with the sheriff's office to make sure we get guns off the streets. And we're not doing that right now. There's not that level of partnerships. There's a lot of distrust amongst the various entities out there, and we need to prevent that the guns in felons' hands that are out there right now illegally from actually causing harm, and we're not doing enough about that.
Okay.
I'd probably give it close to an F. The reduction or elimination of gang and gun reduction positions was a horrific mistake. They're experts at preventing retaliatory crime, deeply problematic. There are other pieces that the mayor, I believe, really took a misstep on when you're looking at violence across the board, that are some things that the mayor doesn't actually directly control, but has influence. So we closed public schools in the city of Portland for over a year. We eliminated sports. We eliminated access to the arts. We eliminated access to a whole bunch of cultural activities in the city. I think there's a direct correlation between crime and destruction of some of those, our social fabric, in really fundamental ways. And at times we need a city council and a mayor, even when it's outside their direct responsibility, to be strong leaders on those issues.
Do you think we should have ever closed schools during the pandemic?
We should have closed schools for 2 weeks, and then we should have fought like hell to get them open much sooner than we did. 2 weeks was a reasonable response.
Should we have opened schools before restaurants and bars?
Yes, without question.
Before we go down this pandemic rabbit hole, oh God, I already lost track of what I was about to ask.
I think it was Commissioner Hardison.
Well, yeah, I was. I had a question for Renee, but I'll think of it in a second. Same question, what would you grade the mayor on handling gun violence?
I think I would give him a D+. And I think I would give him that because...
That's his best grade so far. He's doing
Didn't see that coming, did you?
Wait, you can go back to City Hall and tell him you gave him the best grade.
Knowing I have to go and vote that budget with him, Guys are getting me in trouble. Let me say, I think in some ways the mayor, let me just say that getting rid of the gun violence reduction team was not the wrong thing to do. Neither was getting rid of the school resource officers or the transit police. All the auditor reports showed the disparate outcomes that were race-based, and actually very little prosecuting took place. The FIT team operates exactly like the gun violence reduction team and the gang enforcement team prior to that. They got a group of community members that they've made sign a confidentiality agreement. They go in a room and then they pontificate about all the great things they did this week and all the gang members they identified and blah, blah, blah. There's nothing on paper. There's no way to check the information that these individuals are given. And I know this because I'm a staff person that sits in at those meetings just so that I know what's going on. I can tell you that I've asked both Chief Lavelle and Deputy Chief Fromm. The community only has 3 questions. How many guns did you get off the street this week? How many cases are headed to the DA for prosecution? And what's the demographic breakdown of those cases? Those are the only 3 questions. When I put together this oversight board, That was what I gave them the job to do for this new fit team. And then Sam Adams came in and undid the work that me and my office did. So I pulled my people out. We monitored it, but we are not a part of that fit team.
So wait, are they collecting data on those 3 points you just mentioned?
Deputy Chief Foam says, oh, that should be easy to do. Chief Lavelle is just one-way questions. You ask Chief Lavelle questions, and I never get the answers back.